welcome back to another exciting episode of the show. Today we have an exciting special guest. How are you today, Molly?
Hi, I'm good. How are you doing?
Doing good. So, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
I'm a country singer in Nashville, Tennessee. I was born and raised in St. Louis, Missouri. But I've been in Nashville for about 3.5 years now, writing a bunch of songs and playing shows all over the country with my band. But yeah, music's always been my life and what I wanted to do since I was a little girl.
Very cool. Well, it's great to have you on the show. Kind of get into what you've done thus far with your career and how things are going. So, um, first, how did how did your involvement with sports, especially basketball, shape your initial career aspirations?
I grew up in a sports family and a music family. That was like our two loves were those two things. So like my first concert I ever went to was Tim McGraw at the age of 5. So there was that. And we were always going to see shows when I was little. But then I was also always surrounded by sports. My parents both played college sports and were coaches and all of that. So basketball was my favorite. So I ended up kind of sticking with that one and played on like a travel AAU team and kind of thought that like I'd go play in college and maybe coach when I was older too. But when I was like the end of my eighth grade year, I was like 14, I fell in a game and ended up finding out after a few x-rays that I had a tumor in my femur bone and it had like eaten
Wow.
away my entire femur. Yeah, it was wild and very lucky that we caught it when we did. And it was benign and had the surgery and everything was okay. But during that time, I couldn't play basketball and it was like a year-long recovery. So during that year, my dad taught me to play guitar and I started writing a lot of songs and just kind of dove like headfirst into music. And so when the time came that I was ready to get back to basketball, I played for a little bit longer and then kind of missed just doing music. So that's when I started doing music full time.
Very cool. So, could you share some moments in your life that helped other than the injury, which I'm glad you're doing good with that now, um, that helped you get into the music industry as far as not aspirations, but inspirations and kind of who you may have looked up to and that kind of thing?
Yeah, I just turned 24, so I grew up with Taylor Swift. She was like my girl when I was little. She was one of my first CDs, and one of my first concerts when I was little. So I've always, yeah, she's always been a big inspiration. Her songwriting, the way she's handled herself in her career. Carrie Underwood, Miranda Lambert, a lot of the women in country music I definitely look up to, and have been, inspirations for me since I was little, and that's who I grew up wanting to be like. But other than, women in country, my parents definitely inspired me just because they don't work in music, but they both love their jobs. And, my dad actually runs a basketball club and my mom
Uh,
works with kids who that's her passion is children. So they, are doing what they love and definitely encouraged me to go after what I loved.
and that's very cool because to have that kind of support, it's kind of rare, and that's great that you're doing what you love to do, and then you've got your parents who enjoy and love what they're doing as well.
Yeah, it is. I feel like when I moved to Nashville and talked to more artists, friends, and people, I kind of realized how rare it is to have a family that's like that supportive and all in and, doesn't question because you got to be a little crazy to move to Nashville and chase your dream and do all of that. So, yeah, I'm very lucky with the family I've got.
That's very cool. So, let's see here. What uh, what significance did music gain in your life during the recovery, as far as how did it become a pivotal part of your recovery and your journey?
Yeah, I mean, I think if it wasn't for that surgery and me kind of having to take a step back from life and basketball and all of that, um, I think I would have found my way to music and I still would have, been on the same path, but it just kind of happened maybe quicker that way. And definitely kind of learned just to, make lemonade. Life gives you lemons. You just life goes on and you gotta just kind of find the positive and do what you can with what you have.
Right. And that's very true. I mean, it's one of those things where for most people, they don't really find things that they love to do, but it's one of those things where you kind of take a look back at, your story, for instance, where you enjoyed and loved playing basketball, you loved the game, and then all of a sudden can't play it anymore. So then now you're trying to find your next path, so to speak, and landed on something that most people would kind of shy away from just because it's not the easy thing to do. And you know, I feel like with some of the stuff that I've looked at from some of the research I've done on yet, that you know, when it comes down to not following your dreams and not at least taking the chance, you're going to have that what if eventually and go, I probably should have done whatever that may be.
Totally. Yeah. I actually, so when I was getting ready to go to college, I went for a year, because I just kind of, that was like the thing to do, you go to college and that's what everybody else does. So I thought that's what I was supposed to do. But after that year and, I was gigging and writing a ton and all of that, that's the thing that kept like sticking in my brain. I was like, I'm going to regret this if I sit here and get a degree and then go do something that I don't love. So when I told my parents that I wanted to leave school, that was actually the first thing my mom said. She was like, yeah, you have to go do this. And we're big Bon Jovi fans at my house. And so my mom actually sent a video of Bon Jovi talking about the same thing, where like, if this is what you want to do with your life, if you want to be a musician, you can't have a plan B. You got to just have that plan A and stick with it. So that's what I did.
Yeah, just jump in with both feet. I mean, if you don't try, you will never know whether you could have succeeded or not.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
And that's super important with anything you do. You got to go in 110%. And if it doesn't work, well, then you can at least say, I tried it, I gave it my best effort, and well, try to find something else. And I think that's what people struggle with when it comes to things that they're passionate about is making that decision of I want to do this, but gosh, it's going to be so hard to do it, and I may
Yeah.
fail, but failure is a part of life.
It is. I feel like I've definitely learned to be okay with that the past few years of, living in Nashville and being told no sometimes. It's like now my mindset is just, the worst thing somebody can say is no. So you might as well ask, you might as well try or do whatever it is that you want to do, because it'd be worse if you, had that regret and that what if.
Yeah, and I always tell people the question you don't ask, or the thing that you want to do, if you want to do it and you don't ask somebody if you can have the opportunity, the answer is always no.
Yeah, I actually a couple of months ago I had a show in St. Louis. I was opening up for Dirk Bentley, and
Wow.
um, yeah, and I told myself I was like, I want to sing with him, so I'm just gonna ask if he will let me go up and sing a song with him. The worst he can say is no, and that's okay. So I hired a videographer to come with me just in case. And I talked to him before the show and I just asked him if I could sing a duet with him, and he said yeah. And he was like, I'd love that. Like, what song you want to do? What do you want? And so we sang and we did it.
There you go.
Yeah,
So
so I'm
that's
like
very cool.
yeah, that was my big moment. I was like, okay, like yeah, if I can ask Dirks Bentley, 20 minutes before his show, if I can sing a song with him and he said yes, then I can ask anybody whatever.
Yes, that just proves that just about anything is possible if you just put forth a little bit of effort.
Yeah, just gotta get over the fear of asking.
Exactly.
Mhm.
So, well, we went over that. Sorry. How was your hometown, Missouri, uh, acknowledged and honored you um, for the dedication to your craft and your role for a model status?
Yeah, that was really, really cool. So yeah, my publicist had called me in for a meeting and it ended up being a surprise. And she actually had this little paper presentation from the governor of Missouri, just kind of saying that, they're proud of what I'm doing and yeah, that I'm, a good role model for the younger children of Missouri. And it was really, really cool to hear. I still, it's like hard to believe that the governor knows, just so random, like knows who I am in Missouri and, has seen and heard my music. So that was really special. And I'm from St. Louis, and St. Louis is like my favorite place ever. I love Nashville, but St. Louis is always gonna be home, and I love all my Missouri people back there.
See, that's very cool. You don't meet a lot of people that have done the things that you've done and have gotten the recognition and the notoriety to be able to influence other people and get recognized for that. It doesn't happen often, but when it does, it's a very cool thing to see.
Yeah, yeah, thank you. It was very special for sure.
So, as far as aspirations in the music industry, how often do you envision your future, especially in the terms of touring and headlining?
Yeah, I mean, every day I'm thinking about it. That is the my main goal is I want to headline like stadiums. I want to sell out big shows, big tours and have my songs on the radio and kind of go all the way with it. And I learned when I moved to Nashville that not everybody even wants that. Like some people just want to write songs and that is their thing. And some people are good just playing on Broadway and that is, their thing. And some people just want to, get a little bit of fame or here and there or whatever. But I definitely, I want it all. And I want to spread, my music and my message and all of that across, as far as I can.
That's very cool. Yeah, and the way I look at music is it's like most people, it's kind of like a memory, so to speak. Like, it takes you back to certain things you were doing, or certain parts of your life that you may not remember, and then you hear something, and then you're like, oh, I remember where I was when I heard that. And it's one of those things where I feel like music is such a part of our culture, no matter what genre you're into. Um, because it makes us have natural emotion towards whatever it is and whenever it was that we've heard that song, or it can also bring us closer to that artist just a little bit more, because some songs have that innate connectivity.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I mean, music is so powerful. And that's my favorite part about live shows is getting to see people out in the crowd, like smiling or dancing together or whatever it is, just seeing that like something I wrote and what I'm singing is like doing something for other people and making somebody feel something.
And see, that's very cool. I love, that's why I love all kinds of music. It's, yeah, even if you can't understand the lyrics, because I listen to some people who are from overseas, and if you listen to just the what how they sing the song, you can kind of grab that emotion. and then, you know, it's like the music that goes along with it. I mean, that if there were no words to a song, if you have a really good back really good music behind it,
Mhm.
you know, I feel like that also captures what you're doing. So to have both of those together, like some of the stuff that you've done, it grabs you.
Yeah, thank you. It really did.
Absolutely. Um, so could you share more about the musical influences, specifically Taylor Swift, Maren Morris, Carrie Underwood, and how they've kind of impacted your type of music and how you go about creating music?
Yeah, with I guess with Taylor and Carrie, that's who I really listened to when I was young and growing up. So as a little girl, that is like who I saw and was like, I want to be them. And I think especially with Taylor and her songwriting being so genuine about her own life, which she gets a lot of hate for sometimes. I think it's really cool that she's able to share such like personal and vulnerable things. And that's what I try to do with my music as well, because obviously with where Taylor's at today, it's worked
Right.
for her. And you know, it's very relatable and people love that and it can help a lot of people. And with Maren Morris, I loved her story is really cool because she moved to Nashville and was a songwriter primarily. And there's like a whole story where she was kind of giving up on the artist thing and was like, you know what, maybe this just isn't meant to be for me, and I'll just write songs and that's okay and whatever. And I think it was like very shortly after that my church blew up and she, you know, became a big name. So I think that's really cool. And it just kind of reminds me it's like you gotta be patient and kind of wait your turn for everything to happen.
Very true. And you know, you mentioned that with her, but you know that thing that also happened to I believe it was Chris Stapleton as well, where he was just writing songs for other
Right.
people. Now look where he's at.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I'm like, in his voice, I'm like, how did it take that long for people to like, you know, find him?
It makes you wonder who saw him and went, no,
I
no,
know.
we're good at writing songs, so we'll stick to that.
Crazy.
Yeah, I mean, you know, it's crazy. Yeah, and you know, it's great to see that people like that can inspire people like yourself to go, yeah, you may not be mainstream yet, but just stay vigilant and stay patient. It will come.
Yeah, somebody told me once, and it's like my favorite piece of advice that you just have to stay in line. Like everyone in, you know, my shoes right now, we're like in a big long line, and some people will get out of line and, you know, move back home or do whatever. But if you just stay in line, eventually you're gonna get to the front and it's gonna be your time.
Exactly. I couldn't have said it better myself. That is 100% true. No matter what you do, just stay patient. So as far as your music, how would you describe your music and what message or emotions do you aim to convey through your songs to your audience?
Yeah, my music is very, I would say a mix of traditional country with, you know, the modern sound. Like I've always got some fiddle or steel guitar or banjo or whatever it is, but it's a very modern contemporary sound to it. And I write about my own life. So just things that I have gone through, whether it's like a breakup or friend drama or a love song, whatever it is, it's just things that I've gone through or I've seen my friend go through or whatever it is. It's much easier to write about things that you know. So
Yeah.
that's
Yeah, and you're not wrong. I mean, and that to me makes you more relatable to your audience, and it also gives them a side that you don't normally see. And you know, that's what some of the great country music artists have is that relatability. And you know, if you listen to a song, no matter what it's about, it's one of those things where you can go, I can relate to that on some level,
Mm-hmm.
or
Yeah,
I've been through whatever the song may be, whether it be good or bad. I've been there, and I can relate to that.
yeah, that's the hope with every song. It's like, and even the ones that are a little scarier to put out, that are like a little more real and really hit home. It's like, if, you know, if I feel this way or I've felt this way before, then I'm sure somebody else out there has.
Exactly. So, can you recall any particular memorable performances or moments in your musical career that kind of stand out to you?
Yeah, I mean, the Dirks Bentley show was my favorite like performance I've done yet. Just because, you know, I got to sing with him, and opening the show would have been, you know, cool enough, and that was awesome. But yeah, the fact that we got to sing together. We did Different for Girls, his duet with Elle King.
Wow.
And so yeah, that's just a moment that I will never forget. I also did a show with Priscilla Block earlier last year too. And that was a really fun one. And she is awesome, and her whole crew and everybody. But one performance that I think really changed a lot was actually a few years ago. It was when I was in college still, actually. I came home over Christmas break to St. Louis, and I did this big show, and it was like my first full band show. And I literally had like my dad's buddies play with me. I was like 18. I think I just turned 18 or 19. And I played that show, and we had a huge turnout, and I just had like the best night ever. And that was when I decided that I was going to tell my parents that I didn't want to go back to college, and that I wanted to do that every night. So that show kind of, you know, gave me the confidence to tell my parents, and the kind of put the nail in the coffin that I was gonna do this thing.
Very cool. So, as far as artists or aspiring artists that want to jump into the music industry, can you share any advice or lessons that you've learned throughout your journey that aspiring musicians might find valuable?
Yeah, I would say just to stay true to you, and what you believe, and what's good to you and for you. I feel like, especially pre-Nashville, I was very concerned with like what everybody else thought of the songs I wrote, and of you know, my music, and things that I was doing, or even what I wore, or you know, dumb things like that. And now I'm kind of to the point where I'm like, if I think something's great, or if I think this outfit's cute, then I'm gonna wear it. And you know, I don't care what everybody else thinks so much. And I think once you get to that point is when you can start kind of creating better and making, you know, the best kind of music. So just kind of, I know it's easier said than done, but believing in yourself, and knowing that you're good enough.
Yeah, yeah, and I couldn't have said it better. You know, it is one of those things where it is hard for people sometimes to get behind themselves and shut out the naysayers, along with being able to have that perseverance of, I just need to go ahead and do it. I don't need to worry about what anybody else thinks, because, you know, all of us to a degree at some point in our lives, like you were saying, have cared about what the person next to us thinks of us, and really it does not matter, you know. And it's one of those things where you're right, you got to stay true to yourself. And you know, I think on top of that, and of course this is just something that's worked for me, is you got to surround yourself with people like you have, that go, you know, sure, it's something that for most people may be unattainable, but you need to go try. You just got to go try. Give your best foot forward.
Yeah, that's such a good point. And I think that was actually a lot of my problem back in like high school, and even in college. Like the guy that I was dating thought it was crazy that I was going to move to Nashville and do all of this. And I think once you kind of let go of those people that are holding you back, and surround yourself with support, then yeah, it's life-changing.
And the other side of that too is if you look at some of the bigger things that have happened throughout our recent history going back to the 80s, you take some of the people that have done things that were outside the box and things that people thought were nuts. Look at some of the stuff we have now, like Steve Jobs, with Apple. Everybody thought he was nuts.
Yeah.
And now, I forget what the statistic is, but just about everyone at some point either had an iPhone, has an iPhone, or any kind of Apple product. It's
Yeah.
just normal now.
Mm-hmm.
But that's really what it's about is not worrying about bumping into the walls too much and making a lot of racket. It's really about thinking outside the box, and if there's something you truly believe in, whether it be a product or being able to become a music artist, go for it. What's the worst that could happen is you try, give it your best effort, and it doesn't work, but at least you tried.
And I'm sure you'll have a great time trying.
Exactly. And you never know. You
Mhm.
may be one of those people, and I know it's probably pretty rare, but that you start doing whatever it is that you love to do and it takes off.
Mhm.
Sometimes there's a little hard work behind it, and there's nothing wrong with that. Hard work is great. It teaches you things.
Yeah, totally.
So in terms of your musical development, are there any specific skills or techniques that you worked on to enhance your craft?
Yeah, well, I took piano lessons when I was very little. That was like the first thing I did. I think I was in like kindergarten. And so thankfully my parents decided to put me in piano lessons. I also took voice lessons for a while, but I'm the type of person where I don't like to be told what to do so much. So I only did lessons for like a year or so. And then I just kind of YouTubed and taught myself. And that was the same with guitar. Like my dad kind of knew how to play, he taught himself as well. And then we kind of just YouTubed and like figured things out together. So I'm self-taught with mostly guitar and piano and voice as well. I just kind of always was singing when I was little, apparently. I would run around the house performing and singing for everybody. But I mean, it's something that I do, I mean, every single day. I'm playing piano and guitar and singing and practicing now and working on new songs and all of that. But growing up, yeah, I kind of was taught the basics and then just kept learning on my own.
And see, that's very cool. I feel like with a lot of self-taught stuff, especially when you're trying to learn music instruments, because you have to have that hand-eye coordination. You got to be able to, do multiple things, and it seems daunting, but to be able to teach yourself to do that is something that I find very fascinating because, you know, it's one of those things that most people would just look at and go, I just can't do it. But to see that you were self-taught, that's just something that's amazing. And look at the success you're having too on top of that.
Thank you. Yeah, I think it's music is something I feel like you're just kind of born with in you. It's something that you like are drawn to, therefore you can just kind of figure it out.
And there's no real wrong way to do it. I mean, if you're enjoying yourself and you're creating music that you enjoy, I'd say 9 times out of 10, there's more people around the world that will have that same sentiment of, I enjoy that. You're always going to have your haters that will tell you, no, it sucks. But that's with everything.
Yeah.
And you just got to kind of tune them out.
Mhm.
And that's hard to do too, especially with the way things are now with social media and all that.
Yeah, it is. I know. I feel like you haven't made it unless you have haters though. Like there's just always going to be the haters.
Exactly. Um, so could you share any upcoming projects or goals that you're excited about in your music career?
Yeah, I just released a brand new song just not too long ago. It's called Clean Break. So that is a little breakup song. It's a sassy girl power kind of song about a guy who made a mess that we had to clean up. So I just had that come out, which I've been very, very excited about. And we have a little video for that that will be out soon. I love getting to do videos too, just to kind of enhance the song. I haven't done too many of them. We did one for Flower Girl, my song last year that we put out that I really love, but I'm hoping to get to do more videos this year. And then I've got a lot of new music coming. I'm in the studio next week, and we're planning to release more music than I ever have this year.
Very cool. And that's great to hear. That's the best way to, I feel like, to get your name out there, is have as much content as you can.
Yes.
And at the same time, it's really good content. So you can't go wrong there.
Yeah, thank you.
Absolutely. Um, so I am really curious, how do you balance your time between being on the road performing with your band and working on your music or projects?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's very hard to balance. We're usually gone on the weekends, so we'll head out to go play shows like a Friday through a Sunday. So I does not always happen. But I try to take off some Mondays to where I can like kind of plan and get my life figured out for the week. But I try to make my weekdays mostly just writing and studio time. And yeah, working on, songs with my band and my producer and stuff like that. So most of the time I have like a couple of days during the week that I'm able to totally focus on, yeah, on like studio and new music and all of that. But then there's, content days and photo shoots and videos and all of that. So it's a chaotic life for sure.
But it sounds like it's one that you love and you enjoy being a part of.
Oh yeah, it is. I like when I was home for Christmas for like a week and a half, I was ready. When I got back to Nashville, I was like, I need to be writing. I need to be like, I'm ready to be back. So I love it.
And that's the main thing. It's not work if you're having fun and you love what you do.
Exactly.
Um, are there any specific themes or topics that you find yourself consistently exploring in your music?
I mean, since I write about my life, it just kind of varies on what's happening with me. A lot of it tends to be relationship kind of songs because that is what consumes all of us a lot of the time.
Yes.
Um, so yeah, that's kind of what I tend to write about. But I also really enjoy writing with and for other artists as well. And even there's some like non-country artists that I'll write with and have a few like songwriter cuts on their stuff. So as much as I like, being able to like vent and write about my life, it's also kind of cool to get to tap into somebody else's brain and help them write too.
That is very cool. So looking back on your journey thus far, what do you consider the most fulfilling or rewarding aspect of being a musician?
I think especially now that I, have been in Nashville for a few years um and leveling up slightly, like doing, bigger shows and putting out more music and all of that. It's so cool getting to go back to my hometown in St. Louis and play shows now. Especially like there's a couple of like tiny little bars that I used to play growing up, like when I was like 16, 17, that I would play, consistently on the weekends, and getting to go back and play shows and see all of those people that would come watch me in that little bar, come out to the shows and get to hear my band and all of that is very rewarding. Just, getting to make people proud, people who have been there since the beginning.
And see, that's very cool. So one of the things that I like to do towards the end of an interview is I like to ask three things that the person is grateful for, just because I feel like we're all grateful for something. And at the end of the day, having that mindset of being grateful for even just the small things that we have in life keep us going and put perspective back where it should be. So what if you had to pick, what would be the three things that you're grateful for as of now?
Yeah, I would say one would be my family. I know we talked about them quite a bit during the interview, but not just like my parents, but my brother and my sister and my grandma and cousins and grandpa and everybody, because they, are along with me on this whole journey and everything I'm doing. So yeah, very grateful for them. My band for sure. They have stuck with me for a while, and it's very rare, I feel like, in Nashville to have a consistent band. Like a lot of people kind of just switch off, guitar players or whoever. It's like whoever's available that we can come out and play. And I've found a group of people who like are just down for whatever with me, and are awesome people and players. So I'm very grateful for them. And I'm grateful for all of the fans and friends and people that I've made, especially over the past year or so, that we've been like touring a ton and getting to hit new cities. It's like the coolest thing ever to hear people singing along to my songs or just coming out to shows and getting to see like familiar faces in different cities. It's really, really cool. So I'm very grateful for all those people.
Excellent. So can you tell us where we can find you on social media so people can kind of see what you're up to and kind of check you
Yeah.
out?
It's at Molly Lovette, Lovettee, on everything. So Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, X, the new Twitter, Spotify, Apple Music, whatever you listen to music on, whatever socials you're on, I am there. And my website is mollylovett.com, and it's got all my tour dates on there.
Very cool. Well, listen, I appreciate you taking time out to come and chat with me. And it's been a real pleasure to have you and kind of get your backstory on, what kind of pushed you into the music industry and to kind of see what goes on behind the scenes and get a little bit of taste of that. And, I'd love to do it again. It's been a real pleasure.
Yeah, thank you so, so much. Yeah, this was great.